it's not Hugh today. It's Kurt Schlichter guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. I am a retired United States Army colonel. I am a former Los Angeles trial lawyer. I'm the senior columnist at townhall.com, and I am thrilled. I am thrilled today to jump right in with my first guest, someone I've wanted to talk to for a long time. Senator Susan Collins from the great state of Maine. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Thanks so much, Kurt. I'm a big admirer of yours and of Hugh's, and it's great to join you today.
Well, boy, that's nice of you to say. Senator Collins, were you aware that you have a rabid fan base against the kind of hardcore conservatives like me who think Genghis Khan was a little squishy? Did you know we were out there cheering you on?
I'm delighted to hear that, and I do meet several people who recognize that I come from a state, indeed a region from the country, New England, where I am the sole remaining Republican left in either the House or the Senate in those 6 New England states. That's a huge change from the way it used to be.
Well, I'm a military guy. It reminds me of the British holding out at Rorke's Drift against overwhelming forces. But you've got you've got a big election coming up, and you're facing well, you're not sure which. You've got 2 primary opponents. One of them's maple syrup Spanberger. The other's maple syrup Stormtrooper. How do you how do you assess this this Democrat primary?
Well, I've tried to stay out of the primary, but I'll tell you, I watch it with great fascination. We've got a 2-term liberal governor who is leaving the state in bad condition, fiscally, from a tax perspective, education, you name it. She is the one, Janet Mills, who had the big fight with President Trump, where I'm solidly on President Trump's side, about transgender athletes competing in girls' and women's sports. I don't think that's fair. I think it's contrary to the whole purpose of Title IX to provide athletic opportunities to girls and women. But Janet Mills is on the side of having transgender athletes be able to compete on girls' sports teams, and I just don't think that's fair or safe. And then on the other side is a guy named Graham Plattner. He appears that, he is advised by the same people who advised Montgomery in New York. And he is incredible. He's the one who had a Nazi tattoo for 18 years on his chest and then pretended that he didn't know what it meant. Not very credible. But he has been endorsed by Bernie Sanders. Governor Mills has been endorsed by Chuck Schumer. So it's going to be a very interesting primary.
Well, Senator Collins, I'm not sure what's worse with this Graham Plattner guy, that he had a Nazi tattoo etched into his pecs and didn't know what it was, or he had a Nazi tattoo etched into his pecs and he did. Look, I'm a Californian. I've been to Maine once. I saw a moose. It was a beautiful state. But Mainers are different. Mainers... they're stubborn. Of course, the 20th Maine under Joshua Chamberlain famously saved the Union line at Gettysburg. And I am a military guy. And you guys do your own thing. And I just don't see, someone who's very, very liberal but pretending not to be, or almost an outright communist with a little of the SS kind of blended on in. I just don't see the state going for them when they have you, who they know and they trust. And I understand that you walk down the street and you pretty much know everyone you meet.
Well, I worked very hard for the state of Maine, and part of that is showing up for work. I have never missed a roll call vote in all of my years in the Senate. That's a record, and it reflects the work ethic that I learned growing up in the great state of Maine. And you're right, Mainers like common sense. They're pragmatic, and they're famously independent in how they vote. In 2020, when a lot of the pollsters just wrote me off, I won by 9 percentage points in a state that Joe Biden carried by 9 percentage points. So they often split their ticket, and you're right that I've had the great pleasure and honor of getting to know many of my fellow Mainers personally. That's an advantage of representing a state of 1.3 million people.
Well, one thing we hardcore conservative Susan Collins fans really respect is you not only stand up for your state, but you stand up for the country, too. Right now, we're trying to rebuild our military, particularly the Navy, which, of course, hurts me because I'm an Army guy. But you got to prioritize. You've, of course, got the Bath Iron Works up there, and you are a senior appropriator. How is your work to build up the Navy by building up what's going on at your shipbuilding facilities, helping our Navy get back to the preeminent status it should have?
Well, you've raised a really important issue because under the Biden administration, the Biden administration was not funding our military as it should have. It wasn't even compensating for inflation. And we used to have the biggest Navy in the world. Now we have 293 battle force ships, and China has 395, and it's projected to exceed 435 ships by the year 2030. That is inexcusable. So I have worked very hard to try to increase the size of our naval fleet so that, and we've learned how important it is by the operations in the Dead Sea, for example, and taking on the missiles from Iran during the 12-day war. So that is something where I'm very proud of the contributions that Maine makes. We do have Bath Iron Works, which builds the best destroyers imaginable, and there are only 2 combatant shipyards left in surface combatant shipyards left in the United States, and I'm very proud that one is in the state of Maine. And we also punch above our weight by having the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in Kittery, Maine, which overhauls and refuels nuclear submarines. And we have a Pratt & Whitney plant that makes parts for the F-35. So those are all ways that Maine contributes. But I'm looking not only at the fact that it produces great jobs in Maine and that Maine contributes so much to our national security, but the fact that we were able to this year increase our defense spending and provide a pay raise of 3.8%.
Well, thank you, Senator Collins. I really appreciate you coming on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Good luck in your run against Maple Syrup Spanberger and Maple Syrup Stormtrooper. That's Oasis covering Slade, not Quiet Riot. Quiet Riot's was another cover of Come On, Feel the Noise. It's the only good Oasis song there is. I've always not liked Oasis, but I like that cover. Yeah, this is a little different than Hugh Hewitt. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter, and I am a retired United States Army infantry colonel. I was a trial lawyer in Los Angeles for about 30 years. I am the author of such books as the People's Republic series. The most recent is Panama Red, The Attack about a giant terrorist assault on the United States by Iran is also out there and available, and it is frighteningly appropriate right now. By the way, I am also a senior columnist at townhall.com. I don't want to miss that. Check out my article today on the importance of law. And I love being able to guest host for Hugh Hewitt. I just got a chance to fanboy all over Senator Susan Collins, who has a rabid conservative following. We probably don't agree on everything specifically, but this is somebody who has held a Republican seat amongst a sea of opponents up in New England for, wow, I think she's going for a 6th term now. And, you know, she's actually got a primary against her that is the worst of the Democrats on display. You've got maple syrup Spanberger, who is Janet Mills, their governor, pretends to be a moderate, sensible, and will embrace every bit of commie nonsense that comes down the pike. You know, just like Mom Dami, who's at the PTA. And then you got Graham Plattner, the dude who got a Totenkopf, the SS Death's Head, tattooed into his chest. And he either didn't know what it was or he did, and I'm not sure which is worse. So it would be crazy for the people in Maine to decide to get rid of somebody like Susan Collins, who is a senior appropriator, who is so connected. She's reeling off numbers of ships and things for me. Of course, Maine is a huge shipbuilding state. And yet you trade it in. It'd be like me taking my fine German touring sedan and turning it in for a 1996 Corolla. Because that's what you'd be doing. It's crazy talk. A lot of things going on, and we're going to talk about a lot of things today. Like I said, I am a Army colonel, graduate of the United States Army War College with a strategic studies degree. Now, got to understand, the Army War College is the party war college of the war college system. It is the Chico State, so don't be that impressed. But I do try and keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. Later, we're going to have Admiral Mark Montgomery. I get all those flag officers mixed up. He's going to come on, and we're going to get down to brass tacks. One of the things I love about the Hugh Hewitt show, and I guest host fairly frequently for him. In fact, I met Hugh when he came to, I was a cavalry squadron commander, and he came to the ball as our guest of honor and just knocked everybody's socks off, and we kept in touch. I eventually got him out to Kosovo, where the unit, after I left command, the unit went out to Kosovo, and he came out to visit and observe in a hostile fire zone, although there was no actual hostile fire. But we kept in touch, and one day, Kurt, why don't you guest host? And this is after Andrew Breitbart brought me aboard at Breitbart, the original Big Hollywood site. And, I eventually moved over to Town Hall and started writing books and added national guest host to my resume. And I really appreciate it. I really love it. I especially love being subversive, being able to throw down amazing, mostly post-pop, power pop, kind of post-punk songs that I grew up with living here in Southern California. And I got Adam working with me. He enjoys it great. He's giving me a thumbs up. He enjoys it greatly. He's got some great suggestions. And, of course, Dwayne, too. Dwayne has very good taste in music, though he doesn't like the replacements as much as I do, which is a grave error, but let's not hold it against him. He takes enough abuse from Hugh about things that are unfair. We don't need to abuse him about things that are fair, like not liking the replacements enough. He likes them a little, but not enough. I feel like I'm Donald Trump now, right? I'm talking like Trump. Many people are talking about Dwayne's musical taste. There's a lot of talk about it. We're going to have a lot of Trump tomorrow. And, of course, tomorrow is the tomorrow's show, and I will be here all week unless I break some rules and scandalize the FCC, which I don't think I'm going to. We're going to be doing the build-up to the State of the Union address. And I think it's very interesting what's happening there. a lot of Democrats are saying, well, we're not going to be any part of it. We are not going to be any part of the Donald Trump State of the Union. We refuse to go. That seems, why? Why do you refuse to go? Well, because Donald Trump's breaking norms. Oh, you mean the norm of respecting our president? Of accepting that you lost an election? Of understanding that when the opposition is in power, they get to exercise the power that they won at the ballot box. It's called our democracy. Remember that? I keep hearing a lot about it. And, you know, everything seems to be a Trump exception. You saw yesterday, right? The American men's hockey team, like the American women's hockey team a couple days before, beat the Canadians. And it's so funny because the Canadians are like, right now they're glad they have a medically assisted suicide because they are just depressed. And we Americans are like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Yay! What else is going on? It's like there's that meme from Mad Men where you got Ginsburg's in the elevator and he says, I think you're a bad person to Don Draper. And Don Draper says, I don't think of you at all. That's the America-Canada dynamic. We're kind of amused by them. We kind of think, oh, they're kind of quirky and neat. We'll make fun of them a little. But we don't really hate them. We just don't really think about them. All they think about is Americans. Now, not the ones listening here. There are a lot of Canadians who are pretty hardcore, and Hugh's got an incredible Canadian audience. And I'm not disrespecting the Canadians. Canadians played a good game, and we came out on top. But a lot of leftists got very mad at our team because our team was celebrating with Kash Patel, who was in Italy because he's the head of the FBI. And he is kind of going to be overseeing security for an Olympics here. So maybe it's not a bad idea to go out and see it in action in Italy, how they did it, what they did right, what they did wrong. And, of course, he's out there partying in the locker room, celebrating. I think that's good. The liberal leftists got mad, but they got really mad because he put Donald Trump on speaker. So the president of the United States is congratulating America's national team on their spectacular victory. And the left goes nuts. How dare you normalize the guy who won the presidential election? That would be crazy if it wasn't so disruptive, if it didn't undermine our norms, if it didn't pull blocks out of the Jenga tower that is American society. You can't do that. Donald Trump won the presidency. He's got a right to be president. We have a right to have him as president. And you have a right to more entertainment and information here on the Hugh Hewitt Show. My gosh, we could have saved this song for a future segment later today because I was going to talk about AOC then. But you're going to like what I talk about now. But first, I want to talk about Consumer Cellular. 1-800-411-4454. ConsumerCellular.com/Hugh. Now, you've heard Hugh talk a lot about Consumer Cellular, how you can switch your carrier, save money without the sacrifice. That's because Consumer Cellular loses the same towers as major carriers. Make the switch today. Get $25 off at ConsumerCellular.com/Hugh. And if you're over 50, get one line of unlimited talk, text, and data for $35 plus for an additional $5 off per month for the first 5 months when you visit ConsumerCellular.com/Hugh. Use the promo code Hugh25. Hugh25. Look, Consumer Cellular ranks #1 for network coverage and consumer satisfaction, according to the ACSI. You'll be working with an actual human being when you switch, based right here in the U.S., so you can actually talk to them. Get one line of unlimited talk, text, and data for only $35 a month, plus an additional $5 off per month for the first 5 months. Think of all the money you'll save. Go to ConsumerCellular.com/Hugh, promo code Hugh25, or call 1-800-411-4454. Look, I'm here in California. I'm in the California studio. And our governor Gavin Hairstyle, he's amazing. Let me tell you, he's obviously running for president. And, the black vote in the Democrat Party is a huge deal. So how does he appeal to the African American demographic? You've got to hear this to believe it. Cut number 5.
I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you. I'm a 960 SAT guy. And I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech. Maybe the wrong business to be in.
Did I just hear him correctly? Did I just hear my governor correctly? I'm an idiot, just like you. Is this a thing that the Democrats have? This underlying stereotype about a huge Democrat constituency. Black Americans overwhelmingly vote for the Democrats. And I guess the Democrats think that can only be because they're as dumb as Gavin Newsom is. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. He's dyslexic, as if being dyslexic is the same as being dumb. It is not. It is the inability to decipher writing. It is not native intelligence. He just got out there and said, hey, I'm an idiot like you people. I just, wait, what? This is of a kind with, we can't expect minority Americans to go get valid ID like everybody else. I cringe. Dwayne.
I'm just like you. I can't read either.
To
a black audience.
I mean, holy cow.
If a Republican said that, their career is over with, and Manu Raju of CNN is traipsing up and down the halls of Congress, finding every Republican he can find to say, how come all of you Republicans hate black people? That's how it would happen if the roles were reversed.
See, it's not even hating black people. It's condescending to them. I'm dumb, just like you are. It's cringe making. I mean, this guy. I don't think Gavin Newsom has a shame gene. Right? I think he is genetically shame-proof because, anybody who said that would be like, oh, my God, I'm sorry. Hey, I didn't mean it, because it's literally a horrible thing to say or think. And he's just like, da-da-da-da-da. And the audience is like, wait, what? Wait, what? What? I don't know. I think he's going to start competing against our friend Pete Buttigieg for 0% of the black vote. If you've seen the polls, Buttigieg is getting 0%. Gavin, I think you can actually get negative. If anybody can do it, you can. You screwed up. You managed to screw up California. You've got to be some kind of idiot savant. Idiot. Classing up the joint with a little Mozart bumper music because we got something really special for you. It's a talk between Hugh and Dennis Prager, which it's a long one. So during this week, we're going to share bits and pieces of it about his new book, If There Is No God. And of course, we all know that Dennis had a serious injury, and he's not letting that stop him from sharing his wit and warmth. And of course, I once guest hosted for him. One time, I played the Sex Pistols at bumper music, and I'm not sure that I was never asked back. In any case, let's join Hugh and Dennis Prager for their discussion of the new book, If There Is No God.
Nothing gives me more pleasure than to talk to book authors, and I think this may be the most fun I've ever had doing an interview because it's about Dennis Prager's brand new book, If There Is No God, the battle over who defines good and evil. And the reason it gives me such great pleasure is that it's the first time I've talked to my good friend Dennis Prager in months, who's back in the game with a brand new book, If There Is No God. Dennis, welcome back. This gives me great joy to talk to you. How are you, my friend?
That is a complex question. I'm, since November 12th, 2024, I have been paralyzed from the shoulders down. So that goes a long way in answering your question. On the other hand, I am thinking as creatively as ever, and I am able to speak, which every doctor who's commented on it, and none of them have been religious, has called a miracle. So I have good
I have
news
never
and bad
doubted
news.
it, Dennis. I never doubted it. I just knew you would be back. It would just take some time. I want to talk to you about this fabulous book, Is There Is No God, at great length, because it couldn't be more timely. There are, for you, a number of very interesting passages that you had to pause over when you edited, I would guess, especially why does a supposedly good God allow so much suffering? How long did it take you to edit that chapter?
Very little time, because I have dealt with it for all of my life. I was prepared for a terrible thing to happen to me. It sounds odd, but I think everybody should do it. A big problem is that people are blindsided when tragedy befalls them because they haven't dealt with the issue prior to that. I always give an example, Hugh, of one of the handful of calls in my career that I remember. A woman calls me up and says, Dennis, I never agreed with you about capital punishment. I was always opposed to it. And now I agree with you. And I thought, wow, what changed? She said, my brother was murdered. And of course, I offered condolences to her. It's a terrible tragedy. On the other hand, I was open, and I said to her, well, did you ever deal with the question of all the millions of brothers who were murdered prior to your brother? She said, no. People don't deal with this issue before they are hit by it. I dealt with it. And
well, you deal with it in this book at great length. And you say when people experience joy, they don't say, why me? They only say, why me, when they experience suffering. And there's quite a lot. I mean, this book is based primarily on conversations you had, what I think in 1998 with 34 years ago, with a group of young adults, and about the big questions that you've been doing on the radio and television for decades thereafter. But I want people to know nothing changes because you were dealing with the big questions. It's as relevant
that's
today.
right.
Well, who had the foresight to record it? Because in 1998, we weren't doing that a lot.
That's right. My dear friend Joel Alperson. That's why his name is on the cover, with the assistance of Joel Alperson. If he hadn't recorded that weekend, there would be no book. And I never thought he recorded it. Once I learned about it, I thought I would just put it up on the internet and let, people read about it. But what we did was come up, and I would say almost half the book are challenges to me that were not offered that weekend, but other times, and stuff we made up to even make it harder for me to answer.
You add, for example, 10/7. You talk about October 7th in here in the update. You talk about your paralysis. Right. You don't talk much about Charlie, but you dedicate the book to Charlie Kirk as Charlie Kirk dedicated his book to you. I want to ask you, how did you process the horror of that day when he was assassinated from the position of being in rehab? I mean, did they even allow you to see it? It would be kind of a shock.
Oh, no, I am totally up to date. I would say that watching podcasts has become my specialty and my sanity keeper. So, yeah, I saw it all. How did I process it? I worked on processing since high school the issue of good people murdered. What was the Holocaust? What was Mao's forced starvation of 60 million Chinese and Stalin's of 30 million Russians? That's why people have to deal with these issues before it hits them. And going back to the issue you raised earlier.
Well, that was the great Dennis Prager with Hugh Hewitt having a conversation about his new book, If There Is No God. Of course, that's Spinal Tap with its smash hit, Gimme Some Money. Speaking of Gimme Some Money, here's noted communist Bernie Sanders. Cut 7.
Guys, when Mamdani was running for mayor in New York City, you may recall everybody, all the rich guys were going to leave. It didn't happen. Now, whether they do or not, I don't know. Who knows? But the idea that they are saying that it's okay for children to die, people not get the health care they need, and they're going to punish the people of California, that is outrageous. And by the way, that is why I will be introducing a national wealth tax. Where are they going to run that? Maybe they'll run to Saudi Arabia. I suspect that's where they'll go. But, you got to, at some point, you got to stand up to these guys.
But that's the Newsom argument, that we should do it nationally, but if we do it just here,
somebody's
it's going to hurt California's revenue.
I'm going to introduce the legislation. It ain't going to pass right away. Yeah. And if California can do it, this will be a message, by the way, not only to America, it'll be a message to the world, because this oligarchy
stop this Soviet slurping scumbag. Bernie Sanders is this image, is this curmudgeonly, old, harmless guy, but he is an outright Marxist dirtbag. He is terrible. How dare you not want to give up what you've owned to fund my priority? Children are dying. Well, if children are dying, maybe we shouldn't be giving $9 billion to the local Leering Center. Oh, no, can't cut that. Got to go steal it from somebody who earned it. And don't think it's just billionaires. With a wealth tax, that means that money in your house, the depreciate that you're counting on for your retirement, right? Your house, you've had your house for 10 years. It's gone up a couple $100,000. Well, that's unrealized gain. That's wealth. He wants you to tax it. He wants you to pay taxes on it so he can give money to his commie constituents. Oh, you think it's just billionaires? He doesn't want the billionaires. Billionaires don't count. They could steal all the money from all the billionaires, and that would fund the government for like a month. And then who are they going to look to? It's you. He wants your money. He wants to steal your money like every communist ever. He wants to take what you worked for and flush it down the toilet, and in Bernie's case, buy himself a fourth house. Never trust a communist. Never, ever trust a rich communist, because that's what Bernie Sanders is. Never had a real job, but somehow he's cashed in. You know what we really need in America, folks? You know what America could really use? I'll tell you what America could really use. It could use an idiot tax. It could use a moron levy on unrealized stupidity. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist at townhall.com, retired Army infantry colonel, trial lawyer for 30 years, also author of several books, including the most recent Panama Red, one of the 9 books in the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels, and frequent guest host here for Hugh Hewitt. I always enjoy coming here. Love hanging with the gang, Harley, Adam, and Dwayne. Love being able to play my rock and roll bumper music. Love being able to talk to you guys and all the interesting folks who flock to the Hugh Hewitt Show. This is the gold standard of conservative talk radio, and I am proud to be part of it. There are things that make me less proud, like less proud to be part of the human race when I realize that people like AOC are in it. She's been taking a lot of grief lately because, frankly, she's embarrassed herself. there has been some criticism of her as, well, she was a bartender. Frankly, that's the only thing I like about her. I strongly believe that every American should have a crappy public-facing service job to understand the depths of human obnoxiousness. And I think that's a good thing. I think it is a good thing that she was a bartender. But the fact that you were a bartender does not make you not an idiot. Idiots can be bartenders. Idiots can be the governor of California, as we talked about with Gavin Newsom last hour. Going in front of an audience of African Americans and explaining, I'm just as dumb as you people. Not a good look. So let's hear from AOC after she got mocked at the Munich Security Conference. She did a selfie video, and I think she's melting down like the Wicked Witch. Cut number 6.
If you think that I don't understand foreign policy because out of hours of discourse about international affairs, I pause to think about one of the most sensitive geopolitical issues that currently exist on Earth, I'm afraid the issue's not my understanding, but rather the problem is perhaps you've gotten adjusted to a president that never thinks before he speaks.
So let's review. AOC contends that the reason she sounded like an idiot is because of Donald Trump. Now, look, I think he's a powerful president. I think he is a momentous leader, the most important and central American president, the most consequential since Ronald Reagan. But I was unaware that he had the power to make AOC stupid. I think she's a self-made woman. Wow. She got up at the Munich conference, and somebody asked her, should America essentially attack the Chinese invasion fleet if they're invading Taiwan? And she got, her eyes like became giant, Warner Brothers cartoon eyes. What? And of course, I'm not even sure she knew what Taiwan is. I think she thought it was a Mexican guy from Bangkok. But it's not good when you are presuming to run for president, which she is. I don't think she's going to take Chuck Schumer's seat, although that would be like tripping a fat kid. I think she is aiming for president. Because look at the competition. You just had Gavin Newsom basically tell a huge constituency of the Democrat Party that, you're a bunch of dummies. I'm going to pretend to be a dummy, too. I don't think I'm a dummy because I'm a dummy. But I'm just going to do that to you. And, of course, Pete Buttigieg, who's polling 0 among black Democrats. And then AOC comes in. And she's very sensitive about her foreign policy chops. Very sensitive. Is this the best they can do? I mean, really? This is a woman who can't answer basic questions like, you're president. They invade Taiwan. What do you do? Well, Trump's fascism and Islamophobia and transphobia and other phobias and isms are that blah, 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 blah word salad. I don't think she's going to make it. I don't think she's going to do great. Democrats are looking around. Who is the one? Gavin is, first of all, he's looking wizened. Dwayne, he's looking wizened. Gavin, remember when he was like he's a handsome guy. He was Clark Kent looking. More like Patrick Bateman looking.
He's actually aging pretty rapidly.
He's, failing must take a toll at a cellular level. I don't know.
It's hard to understand what he thinks he's trying to do other than he's just, if you can out crazy everybody else to win the primary, then he can all of a sudden just on a dime become Mr. Centrist and win it all.
Well, he's abandoned that. You know who else is abandoned the center lane? The sane lane? Ro Khanna.
Has...
Remember, I've interviewed him. I've written about him. And he was like, he came across as a Democrat who didn't hate our guts. And he would listen to us and discuss things in a reasonable way. And I think he looked at, he's a smart cat. He's a cunning cat. He's not dumb. He said, there's no lane in the Democrat Party that I can get past. Well, I can't get past J.B. Pritzker because he covers like 4 lanes. But he's in there's no sane lane in the Democrat Party. So I'm going to go, instead of the slow lane, I'm going to ride on the soft shoulder to the left of the HOV lane in crazy. I'm going to embrace this Epstein idiocy and every other.
How much insanity. Liability did he open himself up to by doxing people that had nothing to do with it?
I think he's done it mostly speech and debate clause, so he's protected, which is my thing. Right, you got all these people going, Epstein's at the center of a giant conspiracy. All right, well, who's in the conspiracy with him? We have one woman in jail and Epstein's dead. Who else is in the conspiracy? You know the names. Release the names. Well, you're alleging the conspiracy. Maybe you could name the names. And then he gets out, names 4 names, and there are other dudes who just showed up to be in the lineup.
We keep seeing other names, and they are either Brits or they are lefties, primarily, is who we've seen the other names.
Well, look, I'm perfectly willing to bet a Brit is a pervert. Okay? There's nothing creepier than a British guy's browser history. I'm perfectly willing to accept that. But, you know, I'm kooky because I was a lawyer. I'd like, I don't know, substantive admissible evidence, which is not, he was mentioned in the Epstein file. So was Kurt Cobain. So was Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
Okay, and why they had a checkered history, I don't think it was exactly what they're being, was being associated with Epstein. Also, they've been dead for 30 plus years, or 50 years, in the case of Janis Joplin. It's just so stupid. And, what are the Democrats going to do? Who's their guy? Pete Buttigieg? He looks like Alfred E. Newman, who worked for Kinsey as an analyst, shutting down companies for hedge funds.
Now, when the polling shows that Pete Buttigieg is polling at 0% with African Americans, it's not that it's a statistical 0%. It means there are no African Americans that are willing to vote for him.
That no African American will vote for Pete Buttigieg is itself a repudiation of Gavin Newsom's assertion that black people are somehow mental defectives.
So
they have repudiated it by rejecting Pete Buttigieg. I think they're going to reject Gavin Newsom too.
So what they're down to is Kamala Harris coming back with the T-shirt saying "Miss me yet."
I think she's coming back. She's got a goblet of Franzia in one hand and a copy of Eat, Pray, Love in the other, and she's looking for round 2, folks. Kamala Harris, 2028. Mark my words. I'm telling you, it's coming. And there's more to come here on the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm guest host Kurt Schlechter. We're having a blast. Stick around.
Back again. It's Hugh Hewitt. I might be gone, but I took my Relief Factor with me, and I'm not letting Kurt tell you about Relief Factor because if I take it with me, I want you to know that I take it with me, and I take it wherever I go. Everywhere I go, I've got my Relief Factor for the simple reason I'm always trying to get a trundle in if the weather is permitting and the ground is not the implacable hill. I hate trundling up the implacable hill, but I do it. I do it when I can. I take the Relief Factor with me, not just because of the dreaded overhead bin, though that is indeed dreadful. I take it with me because I want to enjoy vacations as much as possible, and that means, especially with the fishing, Mrs. Hewitt, miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of walking. So, Relief Factor is for me. It should be for you. 1-800, the number 4, and the word relief. Not sure if I've converted Colonel Kurt yet, but it's possible that I have. 1-800, the number 4, and the word relief. Or head over to their website, find the starter pack there, or call for the starter pack. It's $19.95 for a 3-week supply, less than $1 a day at relieffactor.com.
I'm joined now by a guy who is my lawyer, who has been my lawyer in the past, who is a Supreme Court litigator and an all-around great guy, my friend, Ron Coleman, Esquire. Hi, Ron. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Snowy greetings from New Jersey, Kurt.
Well, I'm in California. We're sharing the misery. Hey, you have litigated at the Supreme Court. You're a federal court litigator. I've litigated in the federal courts. And I think a lot of people out there don't really understand kind of what's happening they have a sense that this doesn't sound right. And my contention is they're absolutely correct. I think the district courts particularly, but also the higher courts, circuit courts of appeal and the Supreme Court are literally going insane. Am I off base?
No, and anyone who doesn't understand is in very good company because it is incomprehensible. You know, it's one thing to say judges have political preferences and some of them are activist with respect to certain issues. But examination, I mean, look, we know that there are a couple of judges back out where you are, and there's a couple of judges in Boston, and there's a judge in Maryland. You know, there are lunatic judges who have been the go-to judges for crazy orders. But what really makes you wonder about whether we can get anything done at all is what happened in the District of Columbia federal courts, both at the appellate level and far more at the district court level, including in the courtroom of a judge before whom I had a very successful trial outcome almost a year ago today on a non-political case of the chief judge there. The only way to describe it, Kurt, is a mind virus. It's so irrational how these, especially D.C., but many, many other district court judges who have been traditionally a cadre of people you could count on to basically call balls and strikes. That's over. We've lost that.
Well, Ron, you know, I would go to court, federal court. I argued in front of the Ninth Circuit. I think the smartest judge I argued in front of the Ninth Circuit was a guy named Paul Watford, who was appointed by Obama, and he is a very liberal guy. I was in a totally non-political case. Guy asked brilliant questions, totally prepared. There were other judges who were, well, not so great. You know, and you know, people say, well, I've never lost a trial. Oh, you've done 2 trials in your life? Because I mean, it's crazy talk. They don't understand that for normal cases, judges are usually normal. Every once in a while, you get one who they go against you. Sometimes you're, oh, okay, I understand why I don't agree, but the other guys had some good points, and you know, okay, I lost. Other times they not a great ruling, but this stuff, you know, when instead of citing actual law, they use huge block quotes of 1984. That doesn't happen in the regular practice of law.
Well, and that tells you, as a general rule, I'm pretty sure that they're letting clerks go to town in writing those opinions. I remember about 20 years ago when people started, when clerks started slipping lyrics from the Talking Heads into opinions and stuff like that. It was sort of like a hi mom kind of gag, but we're past that now. I mean, we've had district court judges, including judges nominated by Republicans, and let's stick a pin in that topic to come back to.
Yes.
Who have essentially excreted their mental effluent into opinions in a way that just would have been unthinkable before because of what Donald Trump does to normal minds. And look, and you've got to, if you ever been in front of Breyer the Younger?
No, I never was. He sits in San Francisco. That would be the Northern District of California. I've been in other.
He's an incredibly, I'm saying
smart
this,
guy.
I'm not but really intellectually dishonest. You know, I mean, there's a guy who just, I spoke when you and I last saw each other in person. We were both at NatCon.
Yes.
And my subject there was the socialization of the judiciary. And I think a lot of people were struck by some of the points I was making about how judges are people somewhat like you and me, different in many ways, but
they
have friends, they have colleagues, they have families. They look to see what other people are saying, but also, unlike when you and I were starting out, they look to see what, or their chambers look to see what is the real-time reaction to what they're doing.
Yes. That's true. Now, you mentioned the Republican-nominated judge. Let's stick a pin in it. Well, let's stick a pin and deflate that whole notion. Why is it that Republican judges appointed by a Republican sometimes sound like judges appointed by Biden?
So there are three reasons. One is there are a lot of judges that have always been kind of apolitical. Political chops were not really as much of a part of the job description of a federal judge as they are now. So sometimes someone would approach a Republican or a Democrat in the White House and say, here's a guy who should be a judge, and it's not. Depending on the district, look, in New York, there's a line out the door for Southern District of New York.
Yes.
Judgeships. But in other districts where the salary goes a lot further,
yep,
and where there are a lot fewer really experienced, really highly able candidates, it's a pretty plum job. That's one reason. Another reason is the blue slip system.
Yep.
By which the Senate, in its characteristic method of self-castration, has, and in an environment where collegiality once meant something, or at least it seemed to mean something, said, hey, let's, out of respect for the state senator from a given state, the president is going to give that senator essentially veto power over who is nominated from his state. There's no reason on earth to continue that practice. It's a disaster. And the third reason...
we don't for the courts of appeal.
Right. But of course,
only district courts.
Only for district courts, which are always contained by one state. And then
Ron, I'm sorry. That's our time. We could go on and on about the court system. And if you want to hear more from Ron, go find the Ron Coleman podcast. I've been on it. It is terrific. He is one of the smartest cats out there. I know. I've hired him. Welcome to the Inferno. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter, senior Firestarter. Oh, we could have done Firestarter by Prodigy. That another option. Now, why do we have conflagration-based music options going on here? Because Abigail Spanberger has opened her full mouth again. This woman, you just look at her, and you can almost smell the SSRIs. She is she's this fake moderate who comes into office in Virginia following Glenn Youngkin, who was as milquetoast moderate, great, good Republican, good governor. He's just competent guy. And then she tries to be competent gal and comes in, and every commie idea that comes down I-95, she's signing off on, from taking your guns to taking your representative. She's the worst. And she's also potentially the Democrats' a great, very white hope, because this woman is a woman of power. This is a pale woman. And she had this to say about working with the guy the majority of Americans elected president of the United States. Cut number 8.
You position yourself as a consensus builder, someone who works across the aisle. Would you work with President Trump on areas like job creation?
I think that, you don't work with the arsonist who burns down the house to rebuild it. And in this particular case, the individual who's responsible for an absolute attack on the federal workforce is not the right person to help rebuild our economy.
Well, we can't work with the guy who won the election because he is illegitimate. But when you say Donald Trump is illegitimate, what you're really saying is all the Americans, because he won the non-existent national popular vote, all the Americans who voted for him are also non-existent. They need to be disenfranchised. They can't exist. We can't work with them. And you see this idiocy over and over. You see the same kind of nonsense. This, wine woman this Franzia gobbling goof promotes all over the place. Like when our guys won the hockey game, right? They beat Canada, right? That's just glorious in and of itself. The Canucks are just having a conniption about that, and it's hilarious because we're like, it's pretty cool. We don't care that much. It's really important to you guys, and you're crying a lot. Fortunately, they have medically assisted suicide, so they've got options. But anyway, Trump is the president, right? This is a winning team, is a champion team. That's a big deal. So they put a call through to the locker room. And the guys, they're missing teeth, they're bleeding, they're drinking beer, being hockey guys, demonstrating a terrifying level of heterosexuality. And they're getting slammed. They're getting slammed by I cannot believe that these hockey players actually took a phone call from the president of the United States because he's not allowed to do things that presidents are allowed to do. Every single president in the last gosh knows how many years has called into the Super Bowl champions or the World Series champions. I think those are football and baseball, Dwayne. I'm not sure. And now they're calling into these Olympic champions from hockey ball. And again, not a sports guy. I'm doing my best. But I know the president always calls in. Except Trump can't, because there's an exception. There's an exception here. We can't work with Trump on anything because he's Trump. We can't acknowledge his participation in the normal things that a president of the United States participates in. And this is a non-political. This is him simply calling in and saying, great job humiliating these snowbound, maple syrup gobbling near communists, a.k.a. Canadians. Not the Canadians listening to this show, because you guys are good. We love you. But a lot of your neighbors are goofs. And I know your pain because I live in Los Angeles. A lot of my neighbors are goofs. This is not healthy. Well, we can't normalize Trump because he destroys the norms. And in order to protect the norms, I'm going to bulldoze all the norms. Okay. Do you think when you've cut down all the norms, and I'm quoting a man for all seasons, and the devil turns around and looks for you, do you think you're going to have a norm to hide behind? You are not. This would be all over Abigail Spanberger's SSRI fuzzy head. But you guys know what I'm saying. You're the smartest audience in conservative radio. It's time for another segment of the discussion between Hugh and our friend Dennis Prager about his book, If There Is No God.
I had a friend, Dennis, who said after the collapse of communism that Satan took down the Berlin Wall because he was doing better on our side. This past year, when you were taken off the board for a while, you're back, and that's great. The new book will get you going again. It'll be a #1 bestseller, If There Is No God. And then Charlie off the board. Do you feel like that was unfair, meddling with earthly affairs by evil powers? Because two of our most eloquent defenders of morality and biblical-based morality are off the board for a while.
Right, and a third, Jordan Peterson.
Yes,
it does seem satanic. I will admit I don't believe in a literal Satan, so it's not something I had to deal with. But I will say that the case for a literal Satan is pretty strong, given what you just described. Yeah.
So I want to dive into a couple of things in the book. One more question before then. Actually, two. How is your prayer life? And have people disappointed you or lived up to what you expected of people as you've recovered from this terrible injury?
It's a very difficult question about prayer life. I never have resolved the issue of prayer, given the number of people, good people, who have been murdered and tortured, the number of decent women who have been raped. Yeah, prayers were said for all these people, and presumably many of these people said it for themselves. So I don't have an answer to that question. I can only tell you that the vast number of people praying for me, Christian and Jew, and for that matter, agnostic, has moved me personally. So whether they move God, I can't answer that question. I can't answer it because I just don't know. Clearly, that answer is not available to us. The arguments could be made in both directions.
How about people generally? Have they lived up to expectations or disappointed you? You'll be candid. You're always candid.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The truth is they've pleasantly surprised me. I am on the East Coast in a hospital. I've been here for, I think, 10 months. And the number of people from LA who have visited has blown my mind. People go cross country to visit me. And if we made it known, I would have visitors every day. I have been pleasantly surprised, to be honest.
Well,
and that has meant a lot to me.
Now let's talk about If There Is No God. And I really recommend this book for readers of every age, but especially for youth pastors and people who teachers with young people, because the questions are the same questions every young adult asks. And Dennis, I've known you a long time. I've never heard you talk about the $1 man and the $50 man before. I'm quite smitten with that. I will steal it like I stole the tiger behind the door thing from you, and I won't give you credit. Maybe I'll give you credit, but how long have you been using the $1 man and the $50 man anecdote?
Oh, I started that about as long ago as I did the dog and the stranger. That's very funny that you never heard that.
Never.
Yeah. You know why I never used it on the radio? I only used it in speeches. You want me to recollect it here?
Okay. You also write on page 49, in a message to everyone, even those without belief, live as if you believe God exists. That's fabulous advice. Explain why.
Well, the title of the book, If There Is No God, deals with the issue of good and evil. So that's not the only reason or the only consequence that if there is no God, there is no good and evil. There are only opinions about good and evil. If you really believe good and evil exist, then you believe in God, because they only exist as facts if there is a moral God who governs the universe. But there's another consequence. I could do a whole other book on it. If there is no God, there is not only no good and evil, there is no ultimate meaning to life. Life is an absurdity. And by the way, every atheist philosopher acknowledges that fact, that it's an absurdity. We are a blip in the radar of life. We waited billions of years to get here, and then for billions of years, we're gone. But I don't believe that. You have an infinitely richer life. There is no secular community. And maybe Antifa is a secular community, but there is no secular community the only people who get together regularly are religious people. They go to church or synagogue, or in the case of Jews, not even synagogue, just have Shabbat dinner at home. I had Shabbat dinner every week but the first 2 weeks of COVID. I refused to give in and not have my Shabbat, for example, which is, by the way, what Charlie Kirk's book is about. As a result,
fabulous.
That was Dennis Prager talking to Hugh Hewitt about his new book, If There Is No God. You should go out and pick it up. He's a great guy, and our prayers are with him. That's Australia's own Hoodoo Gurus with Out That Door. One of Dwayne's favorite rock songs.
You know who else this was a favorite of?
Who?
Andrew Breitbart.
Oh, well, Andrew had great taste.
Yes, he did.
He and I bonded over alternative music and Mexican food.
He loved the Gurus.
Well, that's because the Gurus rock.
Yeah.
They rock. They are so good. Speaking of rocking, would you like me to read the latest from the Gavin Newsom press office Twitter site or X site?
I saw this a little bit ago. Go ahead.
Okay. A guy named End Wokeness said, Newsom 2028 merch, and he has a picture of Gavin Newsom, kind of as George Floyd, and it says, I can't read. Right? Remember the dyslexia thing? Gavin Newsom's guys are... It's absolutely vile how MAGA is using Governor Newsom's dyslexia to mock black people. It's racist. It's cruel. It's who they are. Okay.
He thinks he is so clever. He thinks he is the most clever guy in the room.
And he's hired a bunch of 23-year-olds who think they're geniuses.
Yep.
We'll show them. Okay, he got up in front of an audience of black Democrats and said, I'm stupid just like you.
And I can't read just like you.
And I can't read just like you. And, well, obviously it's Trump's fault. Like AOC not knowing anything about foreign policy is Trump's fault. My question, Dwayne, how long does this continue to work to the extent it's working now?
It depends on how foolish the fever swamp on the left, the Democratic primary base continue to be. I mean, if they think he's the white knight that's got the fight, the spark that can do it, then they may follow him. They may give him the nomination. It's possible, I guess. The funny thing about the I can't read stuff and all of a sudden trying to hide behind the dyslexia, he just did a podcast, and there's tweets out there of him mocking Donald Trump and mocking Republicans, showing a stack of books that he just read, like To Kill a Mockingbird and all these other classic books that he's accusing the right of wanting to strip out of libraries because of offensive and sexual content.
Well, how would he know? He can't read.
I know. It's one way or the other, right? It either he can't read or he can. But he's pictured himself sitting in a reclining chair reading books that he says Republicans are trying to ban from libraries. Are they picture books? Because I don't think he can read. He said so himself.
He said so himself.
I know.
I don't know. I don't know. All I know is I've got a song in mind for Gavin Newsom next hour. That's going to be perfect.
Uh-oh.
It's going to be perfect. Admiral Mark Montgomery is here, and we're going to talk about Iran. Sir, how are you doing today?
Hey, fine, thank you, Kurt. Good to see you, and thanks for agreeing to talk with an admiral.
Well, you're also in the Navy, like my entire family. I'm the green sheep. But let's make this a joint operation, and let's talk to the people who are probably a little confused about what's happening as they look at the big board and see all the pieces moving in. How do you assess the current situation around Iran and our readiness to provide the president with options for an attack ranging from basic strikes to perhaps regime change?
Yeah, thanks. And you're right. It could look confusing. What's happened over the last 4 weeks is that the United States has set the conditions the Department of Defense has, so that they can conduct whatever operations the president decides. They've now prepared for him multiple plans and branch plans, different opportunities, so that he can choose the degree to which he wants to impose his will on Iran. And if we'd gone 4 weeks ago, it would have been extremely limited, and you'd have been balancing what's called risk to mission and risk to force with our ground forces that are vulnerable in the Middle East to a ballistic missile counterattack. But what we've done now is created the conditions where we have both the offensive and defensive systems in place, that the president has a much wider range of options. So this is perfect. And by the way, it doesn't hurt our assets to get in theater, do cycles, the aircraft to do cycles, the aircraft carriers, the destroyers, they get to operate in that environment. For the air defense units, I'm not as worried because they're basically returning to where they were, 2 months before. But for these other assets, this was actually very useful. So look, we're in a much better position today than we were at the peak of the protest 3 or 4 weeks ago when the president first brought up this issue.
Well, Admiral Montgomery, I know what my guys would be doing if I was a battalion commander over there, but the Army's not taking the lead on this mission. The lead is the United States Navy. What does it, and you've got unique experience there, day to day, what does your carrier battle group look like? What is it doing every day as it waits for the president to provide orders to attack, to not attack, to do something else?
That's a great point. And I would be fair here. This is going to be an aviation issue for which the Navy could be the predominant force. It'll be close with the Air Force. So the two of them working together, and we're used to this after 20 plus years in the Middle East working side by side. But it's going to be Navy and Air Force. Now, what's interesting here is the Navy, though, has got to be the ones for maintaining that proficiency, the day-night proficiency for landing and taking off from aircraft carriers. That's just there's this constant drumbeat of steady state activity in the background to ensure that the maximum number of pilots are proficient in day and nighttime operations. The maximum number of planes are ready for, you have 4 fighter attack squadrons. Usually they each have 12 planes. Sometimes they have 1 or 2 that are in kind of deep maintenance. They'll be yanking those out as fast as they can so they can offer the CENTCOM commander through his Air Operations Command, the Air Force 3-star. Hey, here are the number of assets we have available. Here's the munitions we have on the carrier. That's the other thing they're doing. Their console ships, the logistics ships, are pulling up the ammo ships, providing them with the maximum, spread of weaponry. And the same thing's happening at Al Udeid and other airfields that we're spreading our Air Force assets. There's a significant number of F-15, F-35, F-16s, even A-10s spread throughout that area, and with both counter-drone but also cost and position weapons. So that's all happening. One thing I would also mention is we always maintain in the United States B-2, B-1, B-52 long-range strike capability that is always available globally on 12 to 18 hours kind of notice for 30-plus hour flights that can impose their will as well, and that'll all be involved.
Well, listeners of the Hugh Hewitt Show, I want to point something out to you, what Admiral Montgomery said, why this guy is a professional, why you should listen to what he's saying. Did you hear the word logistics? Look, amateurs focus on the operations part. You got to be good at it. You got to be able to do it. A professional is going to talk logistics. Sir, you anticipated my question, which was going to be about ammo ships, about oilers, about battle damage capabilities. Are we ready to support an extended fight, more than 2 or 3 days, where we're expending munitions, where we're running out of oil, where those ships need to be refueled and refit?
Yes, we are ready. The good news, these are both nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, but they still will refuel at a routine rate, potentially around once a week for aviation fuel for the air wing. The destroyers have to refuel more frequently. You're absolutely right. But that stuff's in play. It's normally in the background in the Middle East, but I promise you, excess capacity from the Pacific has probably flowed in with the Lincoln Strike Group, and then the Ford Strike Group can rely on stuff that's normally available in the Mediterranean to support the destroyers. I should mention, we've also there's a good number of destroyers here, some with each battle group, some spread out in the Arabian Sea to keep an eye on IRGC actions around the Straits of Hormuz, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps on the Straits of Hormuz. Some in the Red Sea keeping an eye on the Houthis, but they could still use their tomahawks into Iran. And then finally, some off the coast of Israel, not part of the Ford Strike Group, but they're very explicitly to do SM-3, to do long, intermediate range ballistic missile defense of Israel, should they be counterstruck. And of course, they have tomahawks. They can participate as well. So everyone's both an offensive player, and a handful of these are also exquisitely defensive players to help respond to an Iranian counterattack.
Sir, you're the commander of the one of the carrier battle groups. What questions are you asking of your commanders, your ship commanders, surface, subsurface, and air wings?
So what you want to do is you want to be pushing up immediately any kind of comms issue. There's always a little bit of perturbations in communications, and you have redundant 1, 2, 3 satellite systems. Are they all functional? Are we at maximum communication? Because what you want is the ability for them to tell you what they're seeing and for you to give them guidance. Because we do command by negation. We expect to tell our commanding officers, here's what we want you to do. You'll get an order. You execute. You tell me when you're done. But you have to tell me if there's a problem. And you have to tell me when you're done. And so you need to know that connectivity is there. The other ones is our munitions. I think you're pretty good. Once you load Tomahawk and you go out, Tomahawks don't suddenly have a problem on deployment. Same with their standard missiles that you do your air defense with. So you're asking about, communications, munitions, that kind of stuff. And if I could bring up one other thing I should have mentioned right at the very beginning, and that's the Air Force refueling, because you talk about logistics being the key here, and you're absolutely right. To me, the most important thing is the Air Force refueling aircraft. In fact, during the 12-day Israel, campaign against Iran that included the United States on the last day and a half, refueling really became a center of gravity for them. They have 7 aging 707s that are all 60 to 70 years old. The U.S. has the best and largest refueling fleet in the world. It's less than we want, but I guarantee you it's been pushed forward. It's operating out of Israel. It's operating out of the Middle East. And it will help both the U.S. Air Force, the Israeli Air Force, and the U.S. Navy. All three will tap off of those refuelers because they're fantastic. They have long on-station times. We have the best refueling pilots in the world, the best planes, and that's what allows you to impose persistent cost on an adversary.
Well, General Mark Montgomery, you just gave a very important piece of information that Israeli forces can use American air refueling assets. I was not aware of that. That's key, folks. Admiral Mark Montgomery, folks, listen to him. He knows the deal. That's Paul Westerberg's hit Dyslexic Heart from the Single soundtrack in honor of Gavin Newsom, who is now doing the Joe Biden stutter thing with his alleged dyslexia. Can't talk bad about me. I've got dyslexia. Ain't gonna work. Not happening. Not in the cards. One of the fun things about guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt is I get to I get to meet up with some old friends. And Bethany Mandel is one of them. I've known her for, like 15 years? Since the early Breitbart days?
Yes, and when they emailed me and told me that you were guest hosting, I was like, absolutely not. I'm not talking to that schlub. And now here I am.
Now you know you met me. Now people know we have a history. Always great to talk to you, Bethany. I've got a lot to cover with you, but I wanted to get your input. I know that you have been taking an interest in what's going on in Maine and the primary between Maple Syrup Spanberger and Maple Syrup Stormtrooper. And I'm a little baffled by this Plattner guy. He etches a Totenkopf, an SS symbol into his pecs. And I'm not sure which is worse. That he knew it was a Nazi symbol, or he didn't.
He knew. I know that for a fact. He bragged about it to people. He used to call it my Totenkopf. And that was why when people came forward to whomever they came forward to, media, and they said, I know that it's a Totenkopf because that's what Graham told me. He knew it was a Totenkampf for many, many years. And then he started getting press questions. Why do you have a Nazi tattoo? And then all of a sudden he was like, what? I had no idea. Let me cover it up immediately. He is a really disgusting person, and his fixation on the war in Gaza is not unrelated to his Nazi tattoo for 10 years.
Well, I would expect he's against the war in Gaza after the first few hours, and probably highly in favor of it. Look, I'm not saying I don't have some objections to how Israel fought the war in Gaza. I think Israel was far too kind, and I think it was far too gentle. Americans are nice people. They want to default to the idea that people have a good heart and want peace. And that's, I've lived overseas, I've deployed, and I know that that's simply not true. The thing you do with your enemies is you crush them and obliterate their capability for murdering you and your allies. Am I off base?
No, you're not. It's funny because I'm reading the book of Joshua right now, just for fun. Why not? Making my way through the book of Joshua. And lots of people come at me like, God wouldn't want the Jewish people to do this. And I think to myself, and I say it usually, have you read Scripture? Have you read what God told the Jewish people to do to the people of Ai, to the people of Jericho? Like, God was very explicit, actually. Burn everything and kill everyone. So this idea that Israel not bombing from the ground, from the sky, and instead going from door to door to make sure that they're not killing innocent civilians, I agree with you. I think that Israel conducted this war perhaps too ethically, if that such a thing exists, because I don't know what they expected after October 7th, but absolute, complete devastation and destruction is what was necessary after that massacre.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I was an Army colonel. I was a commander, and I don't know how I would look the mother of one of my troops in the eye and say, well, instead of flattening that building I was taking machine gun fire from, I sent your son in first because the scumbag who was shooting at us might have brought along his wife who was loading mags for him, and I didn't want to hurt her. Okay? Yeah. I don't think it's morally wrong to take your own side in a war.
No, and that's a frustration that I hear from a lot of Israelis, because I know people who have died who were sent into a building to make sure that it was empty before they detonated it, and it was booby-trapped, and the person was killed. They chose that method instead of just dropping an aerial bomb on it and detonating it from the air. There's lots of such stories, and there's lots of frustration on the side of Israel, and it red pills Israelis, honestly, because the world, accuses them of conducting the war in such an immoral way. Meanwhile, Israelis look to their neighbors and their friends and their nieces and nephews, and they say to themselves, Avichai died because that's not how we're conducting this war. Forget you people, forget the UN, forget all of these international bodies. We know what we're doing because we're going to the funerals.
Well, I'm particularly disgusted by the Americans who side with the people who killed not only over 1,000 Israelis and their dogs, but killed Americans. They killed Americans, Bethany. And they killed Americans. And they got to pay. They killed Americans
on October 7th, and then they also executed an American a year after holding him in captivity. And what was really wild about that, his name was Hirsch Goldberg Poland. He was born in California. He was raised in Chicago and Richmond, Virginia. And his parents went to the DNC on the stage at the Democratic National Convention and begged for their son's life. And 1 week later, their son was executed in a tunnel in Gaza. It showed so little respect for the fact that, he was killed alongside 5 Israelis. There were 6 people who were killed after being held captive and starved for a year underground. But that's what Hamas thinks of Americans. They were holding 3 Americans hostage and 4. They were holding 4 Americans hostage and executed one of them in cold blood.
Well, this brings us to Iran. And, I've been informed that, America's making war on the people of Iran. No. The mullahs of Iran have murdered and maimed thousands of Americans in the last 45 years. I don't want to hear about your stupid coup in 1953. There is no excuse that ever allows you to hurt Americans and not die. And that's my position. I don't want, Bethany, an America first that doesn't embrace retribution. I don't want a conservatism that doesn't embrace righteous retribution. That is key to our whole ideology and to our survival.
These people are people who are saying death to America, who have already killed Americans, who want to kill more Americans, and they're trying to develop a nuke. I don't know what we're supposed to do in this circumstance, but it seems like a pretty clear solution to me. We have to stop them before they kill us.
Well, I think it's important, like I said, to take your own side in a fight. And these radicals, these monsters have started a fight. I say we finish it. What do you say?
Yeah. I mean, I hope that that's what President Trump intends to do. I don't know what other solution there is.
Well, look, he's got a lot of military forces in place, a lot of pieces moving on the chessboard. Maybe you have better information than I do. What is the feeling of the Israeli people? Can we count on our friends in Israel to help us finish the mullahs? We have about 15 seconds.
Oh, yes, yes. No, people are stocking up. The Israelis are planning their days and hours, planning for a war. It's coming.
Excellent. As Michael Corleone said, today we take care of all family business. Guest host Kurt Schlichter, retired United States Army Colonel, infantry, former trial lawyer, senior columnist at townhall.com. And I am watching what's happening in Puerto Vallarta and all around Mexico with great interest. Though I've been retired for 11 years, I'm not in the mix, and I have no information to bear on it. No modern information, no current information. But you can see what's happening. Now, the Mexican forces, and I'm not sure if it's military or police, went and killed El Mencho, who is apparently one of the key cartel leaders. They killed him and shot him. And El Menchos decided they didn't like this mucho and began attacking things, killing people. They killed about 25, at least, Mexican soldiers. They burned things. They set fires. A bunch of American tourists were trapped in their hotels. Naturally, they whipped out their cameras and got lots of footage of stuff burning. It was an insurgency, a small-scale insurgency. They didn't hold ground. They just went on kind of a looting spree. What does this look like? Is this really an insurgency? Who are these Mexican cartels? Well, again, I don't have any modern intelligence. I know the Americans do. I do not know if Americans participated in any way in this operation to kill El Mencho, but they may very well have. They probably know a great deal about these cartel guys. And I got to say, the Mexican cartel guys should be very careful about screwing with Americans, because when Mexican cartels murdered DEA agent Enrique Camarena, there was a lot of blowback, and it was very ugly. If, for instance, some of these folks decide to come and take out some American tourists at one of these hotels, on purpose or even accidentally, what do you think Donald Trump's going to do to them? I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to be their life insurance underwriter right about then, because it ain't going to be pleasant what's going to happen. America has significant resource. Now, about a third of America's naval firepower is off the coast of Iran right now, about to take care of that, about to settle that portion of family business. That does not mean the folks in Mexico would get a free pass if they choose to mess with Americans. There are, look, we have a Marine Corps base at Camp Pendleton, right up the coast, or right down the coast from us, here in the Relief Factor studio in beautiful Orange County, California. I would not be surprised, and I have no knowledge of this, if a lot of folks there were calling in their guys and saying, hey, I want you on a 2-hour leash. I need you to be ready if we get the call. What would they get the call for? There's something called NEO, N-E-O. It's not the guy in the Matrix. You're not eating a red pill. You're not eating a black pill. You're eating a green tip pill, as in 5.56. Because the Marines conduct NEO, non-combatant evacuation operations, as part of their mission set. And it is not outside the realm of possibility that if things fully go to hell in Puerto Vallarta or otherwise, that the U.S. Marines go in there to get the Americans out. And I've got to tell you, you see lots of these scary pictures of the cartel guys, and they've got automatic weapons and stuff. That's literally nothing. You see essentially a platoon of guys who are not trained in coordinated battle space operations. War is not a guy with a rifle. A guy with a rifle is a key component of war. But there, for an American like a Marine, there's a lot behind him. Okay? You have artillery. You have air power. You've got intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance asset. You got cyber. You've got, heck, naval gunfire. You never fight a platoon of America. If you are a platoon of these guys, 20 Sicarios with AK-47s, and you fight a platoon of Marines with their rifles, you're not just fighting a platoon of Marines. You're fighting an entire Marine Expeditionary Force, and they will kill you dead. Don't do it. Leave the Americans alone. Don't join El Mencho in the ninth circle of hell. Let's continue with Hugh's discussion about Dennis Prager's new book, If There Is No God.
I am glad in this book you include a discussion of anti-Semitism, Dennis, because I want to ask you about it. I've been asking my friends from Israel, Haviv Rettig-Gur, Michael Oren, Amit Segal, everyone who comes on the program, I've been asking them about the explosion of anti-Semitism. On page 184, I did not expect to find this in If There Is No God, but here on page 184 you write, Dennis Prager writes, I, Dennis Prager, believe anti-Semitism is a result of the task for which Jews were chosen. In the words of Edward Flannery, the eminent Catholic priest and historian, the Jews carry the burden of God and his moral law in history. That's profound. I don't know who Father Flannery is, but I know what he's saying. Have you also saved that? We did about a dozen Ask a Jew programs back when they got started, and I never heard you say that before. It's very profound.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind it's true, but I wanted the words to be from a non-Jew, and in this case a Catholic, who wrote a whole book on anti-Semitism and was published in the Wall Street Journal. He got it right, and so did Ernest von den Hoff. Do you remember him?
No, I remember the name, but I don't remember him writing about anti-Semitism.
Oh, he wrote the finest one-volume work on the Jews that I ever read. He really got it right. The Jew, and he wrote too, the Jew carries the burden of God in history. A lot of Jews are not believers, but it's irrelevant. God has used the Jews to bring the Ten Commandments into the world, to bring the Bible into the world, for Christians to bring the Messiah into the world. I mean, you can't deny any of that.
Nope, you can't. I listened to Brett Stevens recently give the State of World Jewry address at the...
so did I.
Okay, so he says anti-Semitism is a result of resentment stewed in envy. Do you agree with him?
Yeah, and George Gilder's whole theory about the hatred of Israel is about about envy, hatred. Of course, that's true.
Well, we are taping this on Thursday, February 19th, for release the following week when the book drops and is available. And again, the name of the book is If There Is No God. Dennis, what do you want President Trump to do? By the way, he was one of the first people to call Sue when you were injured. I want people to know that. But what do you want President Trump to do vis-a-vis Iran?
I want him to attack, even though we have been burned by interventions in the Middle East. If we can decapitate the Iranian regime, the amount of good that would come from that, you have decapitated the head of a monster, of Hezbollah in Lebanon, of Hamas in Gaza, and so many other, and the Houthis in Yemen. It would reassert American leadership for goodness. I don't remember which author. I just want to say, I don't remember which author, but somebody once said that the number of people who cried of joy when they saw the American flag in their country is not duplicated by any other nation.
I agree with that, and I'll look up the author, Dennis. Two more things I want to quote for you. You're generous with your time. This will be such an encouragement to everyone who suffers, to everyone who's dealing with injury, and to everyone dealing with loss. So thank you for making the time and the effort. The book will be an encouragement to everyone struggling with age-old questions of, is there God? And if so, why isn't he listening to me? But the two last comments from you. Page 117. You say to these kids gathered in Nebraska, I once asked you what was the best thing about Philadelphia, and I kind of caught you out because you were at a loss for words. I'm not sure why you went to Nebraska for this book. That's not explained. I'll ask Joel that. But you say to these kids, any religious person who hates gays is inauthentically religious. Bravo, absolutely correct. How did the kids take that in 1998 from someone that they thought was a conservative?
Oh, the same way the people take it today. They think that because I oppose same-sex marriage, that I'm anti-gays. So let me tell you something. I was flown to the Southeast. I did not know I was sedated. When I finally woke up, I asked my wife how much it cost to get a Medijet. And it's very expensive. And I said, so we paid for it? And she said, no. And then she told me a gay couple paid for my trip on a Medijet to the Southeast in the United States.
I was hoping you'd tell that story. It's in the book.
That was Hugh Hewitt having a conversation with the great Dennis Prager. Keep him in your prayers. Check out his book, What If There Is No God? Closing it out. Dwayne, what do you think of the show?
It's a serviceable show. We had all sorts of good stuff.
Serviceable? It was epic.
Epic?
Epic. We had Susan Collins on.
Susan Collins was good.
The Admiral.
The Admiral was very good.
A long visit with Dennis Prager over various segments. That was good.
That was very good.
Man, we had a lot of quality stuff. Schlichter brings the quality.
Schlichter does bring the quality. Bumper music could have been better.
It could not have been better. I even played one of your favorites.
Well, that's why it was serviceable.
Oh,
it wasn't a total loss.
Oh my gosh! And we just we're closing out with we always close out with the replacements, but we just did a Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division, which is a great
song. A fine song.
We made a lot of fun of Graham Plattner, the guy who got the Nazi tattoo sketched into his chest. I thought that was good.
We had great fun at the expense of Gavin Newsom of the Canadians.
The Canadians, Gavin Newsom.
And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, my gosh, a band. Gavin Newsom and the Canadians.
Yes, Gavin and the Canadians.
Oh, my gosh. They
who will he?
They need to do a cover of Tears of a Clown.
Who will he offend next? Which
my gosh.
Which constituency group will he kick off next?
Well, look, all the Gavin Newsom defenders are on the Twitter machine or X, and they're all like, "This is a lie. You're misconstruing what he said. He didn't say that." And I'm like, not arguing with him. I'm just like, okay, listen to what he said. I'm not afraid for you to listen to what he said. I'm not going to characterize it. You listen to what he said. You tell me if he didn't tell black people that I'm dumb just like you. I mean, that's what he said.
Joe Biden did the same thing.
Oh, he did.
And we mocked him for doing that too.
Oh my gosh. So Gavin Newsom, who's losing his looks, I got to say. I'm getting more distinguished.
I'm not trying
looking at myself on the screen going, you look good. Gavin, though, he's
the older he gets, the more he's looking like freeze, like cold miser.
He's cold miser. He's not even heat miser.
He's not even heat miser
He's
anymore.
not even the money miser.
No.
I remember in the American Psycho, the long thing where Christian Bale talks about his skincare routine for like 10 minutes. And I keep seeing Gavin, and I think he's failed to maintain his routine. I just think he's crypt keepering.
How do you think he's going to actually do when people actually remember, hey, he's the guy that's the governor of California. We don't like California that much. We don't want all the politics from California.
I went to California and ruined my shoes. All right, you got another 4 days of Kurt Schlichter with the whole gang here. Dwayne, Harley, and Adam, greatest team in radio.